Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Plank of the Week, the one show where it's okay to be judgmental. It's all right to call people names, and it's very, very good indeed if you don't like someone to call them a plank, because that's what we do here at Plank of the Week. I'm delighted to say that we are joined by a very, very good panel today. Like every single week, we don't have a bad one, to be fair. Kevin O'Sullivan is here to kick things off. He's been on every single show this week, everywhere else, but we're delighted to have got him for this one. Molly Kingsley is also with us from Us For Them, a campaigner out there helping everybody get through various different problems. Then we've got Candice Holdsworth here, of course, a free speech campaigner as well. And Will Geddes, the man who's here just in case we need any kind of protection from anything nasty that's going on out there. What we are fighting for this week, of course, is this, the Plank of the Week, which we will award to the winner coming up later on. But before we start this week, I've just got a little statement to make from the production company here, of course, at the TV studios at talkTV, because we filmed Plank of the Week last week and we did it very well. We had a very exciting panel. We all had an awful lot of fun and it was all done very well. But I'm afraid it then got passed to the next level of the chain, who made a complete and utter dog's breakfast of it, managed to put it out on TV in the wrong order, and managed to finish the show without actually finding out who the Plank of the Week was. So, I'm afraid we're going to do an honorary plank, which is going to be made available to a man who should be nameless, because apparently they're keeping his name from me so that I can't go to his office and kill him, because we weren't very happy. Also, Chuck, the producer, wanted to kill him as well. So he's currently in hiding, as far as we know, and it might be safe for him to come back soon. But hopefully it won't have anything to do with the forwarding transmission of this particular episode, because otherwise he might mess it up again. But let's kick things off. Kevin, who's your first plank?
Well, I snaffled this one early because I think he's going to be the winner. I don't want to preempt anything, no early spoilers, but we're talking about Mr. Matt Hancock,
yes,
the former health secretary who's gone down under to participate in ITV's famous reality show, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He's not a celebrity. He shouldn't even be in there.
No.
He's apparently getting 350 grand to do it.
I've heard it's gone up to 400,000
Yeah,
now.
It'll be a good fee. And for ITV, he's a brilliant booking. They like politicians anyway, because politicians not only get them front pages of The Sun and The Mirror and The Star, they also get them front pages of the Times and even the Financial Times. So they get across-the-board publicity.
Brilliant.
But, of course, this guy, Hancock, made himself incredibly unpopular during what I might depict as his mishandling of the COVID crisis, locking us down every 20 minutes. We now know that was all a waste of time.
It wasn't anything was mishandling.
Yeah, I mean, and this, of course, is why he can't work out why it is he can't climb back the greasy political pole to the top. He can't work out why he can't regain this sort of semi-popularity he used to have. And, of course, his major crime was, apart from the fact we didn't really like the way he was handling the pandemic anyway, he was a little bit fascistic, a little bit anti-freedom, anti-liberty for the people. But then, of course, he gets caught in the middle of the health department. He's the health secretary, snogging his mistress, Gina Lollobrigida, or something like that. Something like that. And
Colladangelo.
Colladangelo, but everyone calls her Gina Lollobrigida. Anyway, I mean, that was the most heinous breaking of his own rules.
Yeah.
He couldn't even obey his own rules, and then didn't think he'd have to resign. He clung on for about a week.
Well,
Finally.
Boris Johnson didn't think he needed to resign either, which is not that surprising, given that Boris Johnson doesn't think there's anything wrong with doing that at the best of the time.
Yeah, Boris Johnson doesn't like having to force people out of office for moral reasons, for obvious reasons. So anyway, Matt's gone down there.
Clinching other people's wives in government department offices is all very good for Boris.
It's
standard operating procedures.
Well, that's his hobby. But anyway, so Matt Hancock's pitched up in Australia to take part in I'm a Celeb, where he will be a compelling and fascinating guest. But he'll get to do more trials than anyone ever in the past. I think the record is 7 in a row for Jan Leeming. He will surpass that, no problem at all. And a lot of people say, oh, well, he's been suspended from the Tory party, you know, he's taken the whip away from him because he's not serving his constituents up in Suffolk. That's quite right to feel that, but I think he doesn't care anymore. No. He knows he's finished. Rishi Sunak completely blanked him last week.
Oh, yeah, that was
He just walked past him as if he didn't exist. So he knows he's not getting back to the top. He came very close to getting deselected by the good people of, I think it's West Suffolk, because of his extramarital lack of moral fibre.
You do know we've got to get another 9 of these.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more is this?
And now he will get deselected now. So I think he's giving up on his political career. Well, but he is plank of the week for all those reasons.
Yeah, was it not his chairman of his local constituency party said he was looking very much forward to him eating some kangaroo peats?
That's a window into what they're feeling in West Suffolk.
But he's also said, apparently, that he's suffering from trench foot because before he did this, he was doing his SAS.
Who dares win?
And they're not very happy. They're not very happy with him either because he did their show, claiming that was going to be his first television appearance. And in fact, I'm a Celeb is going to go out before their show. Yeah. But he claims that while doing that show, he's got trench foot, so he's going to try and weasel out.
Oh, I can't wait to watch him on that.
But there's a serious point here, isn't there? Because we're all laughing about it, but actually this is an MP paid with our money. Like he shouldn't be able to be an MP and do this.
There should be some mechanism by which you can just resign.
There should. Or his constituents. What's the recall? Is it 15% of your constituents need to ask you to be recalled?
Yeah, well, I think it'll
right?
happen to him. Nadine Dorries got the same treatment when she went because, of course, ITV won't let these politicians tell their party they're going down there. It has to remain a secret. By the way, just one last reason he deserves Plank of the Week, there are so many, is he said, it's just so untrue to say, I won't be available to my constituents. They can call me any time when I'm down under in the camp. I don't think he actually understands the
time
rules.
No. He says I'm going to where the people are.
Yeah. You can't be contacted when you're in the camp.
Right. But to be fair, I mean, he's going to make some money from the show because he certainly won't make any from his book, will he? No.
But is that what he's doing? He's decided to monetise his notoriety.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And isn't that disgraceful? You know, if you think about these, he did not make minor errors. His handling of the pandemic was egregious and led to the deaths of tens of thousands of elderly people.
Isn't there a small matter as well, apart from the fact that he's got a job in Parliament, there's a small matter of the COVID inquiry that's actually going on, which you should really be paying attention to.
I would have thought he'd need to come back and attend that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, do you reckon, Kevin, that they won't kick him out early because he'll be voted sort of in by the public?
Yeah, they'll hang on to him. I mean, Nadine Dorries was the first out when she went down there, but she had a sort of lower profile than Matt.
Yeah.
I think they'll hang on to him. My guess would be he'll come about fourth because that will take you through most of the 3 weeks.
It's quite a good cast, though, isn't it? Boy George is there. Mike
it's very good. Mike Tindall.
They've got a few people
really raised their game.
They've
really raised their game this year. So much as we all have contempt for Matt Hancock, we all know we're also going to tune in to watch him chew kangaroo's anus.
Yes.
He said carefully.
Beautifully pronounced.
Candice, it's not a particular delicacy in Australia. Why do they make them eat this stuff?
I don't know.
It's shocking. You've got the next one.
I've got the next one.
Tell us.
So my next one, this was a bit of a tricky one for me because, like you say, I'm very big for free speech and I think the art should be a sacred space, but I chose The Crown because there were reports this week that they have rewritten the Annus Horribilis speech that the Queen made in 1992. Yeah. And that also follows on from reports that they had completely made up the fact that Prince Charles had asked John Major to help him get the Queen to abdicate. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to appear in the series, but John Major came out and said this never happened, this conversation never took place. Of course, free expression is important. People should be able to do whatever they want artistically. There should be no deference, but I think they have a responsibility to the historical record, especially in the space that they operate. It's not total fantasy, it's not satire, it's dramatizing real events. And as some people have said, it's not distant history where you have loads of gaps to fill in. These people are actually alive right now. I mean, this is the king, and you are making out like you tried to kick his mother out of power.
It's worse than that. They've also got the Princess Diana interview with Martin Bashir in one of the episodes coming up. And they're inventing questions and answers that she didn't give and that she wasn't asked. And you think, well, hang on a minute, that was such a sensational interview by itself. Why would you need to invent other things to put in it just because you want to dramatise it even more.
Yes, you
And
don't
it's
need
just
to
ridiculous,
do that.
yeah.
Yes,
As I always say, this is a cowardly production predicated on the fact that the royal family never sue. So if it was a normal family who weren't royal, then Netflix would have their arses sued, to be honest with you. And so they carry on like this. But that John Major stuff is in there. And I would like John Major to sue, because that is defamatory. To suggest he conspired with Prince Charles to kick the Queen off the throne.
Yeah, and of course, as we're told currently, every American that watches it thinks it is a documentary. They don't realise that it's actually, you know,
Well, I think this is the
dramatised.
problem. It blurs the line, doesn't it?
Right.
And it's very insensitive. There's a lack of mercy, I think. There's one of the storylines, apparently, that they've picked up on there was not a storyline, it's a real life. There was a granddaughter of Lord Mountbatten, 5-year-old little girl who died tragically of kidney cancer, and they've included that, and her parents are still alive, and you just think,
And they are upset about it.
As you would be.
Well, and also, I mean, on the diner interview front, I mean, Prince William had said that he didn't ever want that to be broadcast again. The BBC have said they're never going to broadcast it again, but Netflix think not only is it okay to broadcast it, but just embellish it and just make some stuff up that didn't happen. It's extraordinary.
And let's remember who wrote it. Peter Morgan, a former Republican.
Yes.
He says he's not anymore, but
Well, it's hard to
he's
imagine,
an anti-monarchist.
He
clearly,
clearly is. It's got an anti-monarchy theme.
Although there's
running
one
all the way
person
through.
who is very litigious, and that's Al Fayed. So if they paint Dodi in a different light or an embellished light that's
Well,
not
I'd
favourable,
love them to get sued.
I'm
I'd
sure
love them
it'll
to
sue.
You know, the
He'll probably
other
sue.
people who are quite litigious is Harry and Meghan. They sue
Yeah,
everybody.
that's true.
But, you know, they're not going to sue Netflix, are they? Because they
just
take
got a
load
deal.
of money from them.
Yeah.
We'll be coming on to Harry and Meghan a bit later on. But, I mean, it is an extraordinary series because Harry apparently once said to Angela Levin that he did watch it and he hopes that they stop it before it gets to him.
Yeah.
And that was obviously before it got to
And this
to his
series
mother.
has gone very light on Harry.
Yeah.
Can't wait for
We
the
know
next
that.
season afterwards.
It's
The
let
Harry
Harry
and
off
Meghan
the hook.
season.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing as well is they're also reenacting the crash, which they said they wouldn't do.
Yes, I heard that,
And I don't know exactly how they're going to do that, but what we do know is that they were filming outside the tunnel.
I think
weren't
it
they?
What I've heard is
It will end-
they-
well, I
it
said-
ends
with the
tunnel.
car going through
Yeah,
the
I
tunnel.
said that's exactly how they do it, and that's exactly how they have done it. And I was
Yeah.
shouted down by
that's
some
what they've
people
done,
on
yeah.
another show. that you might
Really?
remember? Who
They
said
were
to me,
wrong,
"Oh, they
Mike.
wouldn't do that."
They were wrong.
Of course they were wrong, and I was right. Again,
Obviously,
funnily
as
enough.
always, sir.
Will, you've got the next one.
So you know me, I always bring the serious subjects in.
Of course. It's a very serious show, this.
It is.
Was last week.
So it's not going to take a wild leap to put our lovely friends at Stop Oil
Yes.
into the frame yet again. And I was witness to two of their actions, actually. Sadly, not at the right time where I could have potentially intervened, which I would have very much enjoyed doing. But, you know, the whole thing about the Stop Oil thing, I just don't get it. The targeting of certain locations, which are totally unassociated to any kind of oil or extraction or energy business, because Rolex, as far as I know, hasn't entered the utilities market as yet. So targeting Rolex, targeting Harrods, and blocking people's roads. But it's interesting because I've spoken to friends of mine in the police, and they've said to me, look, you know, we're in a real dilemma because the highway code dictates that if you are actually blocking a highway, that is a criminal act. However, on the other side, for free speech, there is a right for free speech and free protest. So the police are probably more likely to be there to protect the actual protesters from the ever more angering members of the general public.
But surely if you're having an episode of free speech in a way which is breaking the law, then that's breaking the law.
Well, only if it goes above a particular audio level. So if it goes to an elevation of audio so it's actually disturbing people nearby, then yes. But you notice with these guys, they're very, very quiet and they're quite silent when they do their protests.
They're not always, though. Sometimes they've got that
But
bad woman goes around
but I
shouting.
have noted that they've slipped up on one thing.
Yeah.
So this orange paint that they painted Jack
Is there oil in that
Barclays-
paint, by the way?
Yeah. Well,
was
the thing is,
wondering.
I actually spoke to the guys cleaning up outside the Rolex store and looked at it, and it's actually got a grain in it as well. So the guys, and when I spoke to the copper who was nearby, they actually arrested them for criminal damage. So it's not an inert sort of orange spray of water and whatever.
I mean, it
It's
comes
actually got
off
something
quite
in there.
easily, though,
No,
doesn't
it doesn't. That's the thing. I walked past the Ferrari garage the other day, and they've still got, oh, not Ferrari, Jack Barclay, they've actually got paint residue still in there. Now, the joy is they can get done for criminal damaging. However, that's going to be over to the CPS. The CPS will probably not charge them. They'll probably give them suspended sentences and push them on their way in a fine. However, Where I think the angle is certainly some of these big brand businesses should launch heavy civil suits for damage against their properties. And I think the best way to hit stop oil is in their pockets.
Also, you know, this is the reason these demonstrations prosper and they disrupt decent people's daily lives, going about their lawful business. They're allowed to do it. It's because of woke coppers.
Yeah.
Because actually...
Well,
No. Wait a
ish.
second. Well, this is absolutely a fact. That Mark Rowley, the chief of the Met, has said so. It's a question of interpretation.
Yeah.
So the police say that at a certain level of disruption, they will step in. So the police have to interpret where they feel a demonstration has become too disruptive. Now, they could interpret it that the moment you stop anyone going about their lawful business, that is too disruptive. Instead, they allow ambulances, fire engines, buses, massive traffic jams. They allow these demonstrations to carry on and on and on. So it's all down to the police siding with the demonstrators and not decent people going about
Only
their
I
business.
think, Kevin,
Simple as
'cause of
that.
the-
Woke coppers, yet again.
Well, it's more to the holes in the law right now, which is the problem. There's this gap of ambiguity. But when I was speaking to this copper the other day, and I said, look, if I'm moving a VIP and we're in a vehicle with a chase or a lead, and if we have anybody obstructing the road in front of us, we'll just drive through them. End of, because we could perceive it as a potential threat or an ambush or something which is going to choke up our journey management. And I said to the copper, how would you feel about that? And he said, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah,
You know.
but equally, though, there was an incident, we have to stop in a moment, there was an incident with Insulate Britain, the same nutters who do it for a different cause, apparently. Oil's not a problem for them, it's just insulation. Who knows what the difference is.
Who the main spokesperson doesn't have insulation himself.
So there was police actually stopping people from removing them from the road, because as you've seen lately, a lot of passengers in cars and taxis and lorry drivers and people like that have gone, right, we're just going to move you off the road ourselves.
Well, the key is
police were
reasonable
actually
force.
protecting. No, but the police were protecting
absolutely.
them.
The police tried to arrest the motorists.
Yeah, but it's got to be
get
reasonable
back on the
force.
road.
I mean, the one thing the cops can't dispute you on is if you use reasonable force, commensurate force to remove them. If you're battering them round the head and dragging them off by their ears, then they probably take
but
exception
the
to
cops
the assault.
they could arrest them on the spot. They're on suspicion of breaking the law, and the fact that once they stop one car, that's too disruptive. If the cops wanted to, they could stop those people.
The other angle
I'm
I'm going
to do. I'm going to get some cans of soup to keep in the car.
Yeah.
And whenever I see them,
spray
I'm
them.
just going to empty the soup over them.
I like it.
That's
I like
not
it.
a problem.
I like it.
That's
The
not
other
a
one is
problem.
mental health, for their own health, to get them out of the road so they
get them out of the way.
by me and my
Absolutely
team.
nightmare. Absolutely nightmare. Coming up next, we're going to be nominating a man who is known as Despair. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We've already got it underway, so now it's time to get straight back in to who has been a bigger plank this week, and it's Molly Kingsley with her first choice. Molly, who is it?
Yeah, so my first choice is a professor at Brown University called Emily OSTER, and no one probably had heard of her until this week.
I've never heard of her. Steve,
That's a good one.
She wrote a piece published in The Atlantic earlier this week.
Right.
And that piece went viral. And what it said was that actually there should be a pandemic amnesty.
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah, I didn't realise that she was the
So,
author.
yeah, she was the source of it. So after, 2.5 years during which our economy has been ruined, our children have missed school, we have now this huge excess death problem, we've got hospital waiting lists that are longer than they've ever been, etc., etc. We should all just kiss and make up and move on and accept that mistakes were made, but, let's look to the future.
Yes.
And that met with a vitriolic reaction. I think last time I checked, there were about 40,000 comments on this post on Twitter with the article. And I have a real issue, like many other people, with this suggestion, because I think for three reasons, really. I think the first is it ignores the severity of the impact, actually, of the last 2 years. I mean, as we talked about in relation to Matt Hancock, like these were not small mistakes, and the impacts are going to live with us and probably our children for the rest of our lives. And, there is no joy in seeing it play out, but we really are seeing it play out now. And so, every newspaper headline in some way, not every, but many, link back to these decisions taken during lockdown.
And taken incredibly quickly and acted out and orchestrated very quickly without really any consideration for whether it was a good idea or not.
Well, and I think this is the second point. Yeah. So I think these were decisions that, you know, were not simple errors. They were taken, I mean, quickly is probably a kind way of saying they were taken by a very small number of people against actually a lot of voices on the outside saying, are you sure? This is insane. This is, you know, who's going to pay for this lockdown bill? Like, what does it look like when you lock children out of school for 2 years? And a lot of people, so it was taken against a lot of warning voices. And we know, at least in the UK, these decisions were taken without any kind of harm assessment. I mean, that's not a mistake. That's gross negligence at best, I would say. So I think, and sorry, carrying on that theme.
And what was her reasoning for this amnesty, this kind of idea that you just forget about it all and just move on? How was that going to be helpful?
The rationale was that these were the decisions taken at the very beginning of the pandemic, when actually people
didn't know.
Exactly, when people didn't know, when it was all very unclear. And I think, again, this is another reason to rail against this. People did know. Like, for a lot of this, the data
Remember those idiots in Labour when they said, if only we'd have locked down 2 weeks earlier, we'd have never had the pandemic.
Also, by the way,
in the backlash on Twitter against what this person said, was there one that said, I think this amnesty for mistakes made during the pandemic is a really good idea, at Matt Hancock.
Yes.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, you know, the people suggesting the amnesty tend to be on a certain side of the debate, don't they?
It's great,
the people who silenced all dissent, they didn't allow any other voices to come in. And it wasn't just mistakes, it was like people like the Great Barrington Declaration, who just had an alternative view. They were demonised. And for them, being medical people, they were in shock. They'd never had to deal with this before. They thought their ideas would be heard, but they weren't.
I think this is exactly it. You know, an amnesty for demonisation and stigmatisation and, you know, actually really serious breaches of many different types of ethical boundaries. I just know, I'm sorry. So Emily gets my plan for the week.
And most of the people, an awful lot of the people who said that they knew that it was the right thing to do had absolutely no qualification whatsoever. And they would say to you, if you were to question it, well, what are you, a scientist? And you go, well, no, but neither are you, actually. The people who you're calling scientists are not actually scientists either.
But they kept changing,
but
even the scientists, even Whitty and the other
characters, didn't believe in them.
They kept changing.
Balance.
That's the chap. They kept changing their approach and literally 180ing all the time. The whole thing was so confusing.
Those two got it completely wrong and, of course, were knighted. The really disconcerting, worrying cultural shift that happened during the pandemic and is now happening with our current absolute all-consuming obsession with the climate change alleged emergency is that to be called a sceptic is now a pejorative term.
It is.
You know, oh, you're a skeptic. Well, you know, actually, skepticism.
You don't believe in it.
Skepticism is a sign of intelligent questioning.
It is.
Of a narrative.
Well, it used to be, as a parent, you used to tell your kids that all the time.
Be sceptical.
Think critically about things that we would be losing.
Now,
skepticism become a bad thing.
Well, apparently about 4 years ago. But we're going to move on from that because it's time for my first nomination. It is back to the royal family. It is, of course, the lovely Harry and Meghan.
Here he is.
I mean, you know,
I knew he'd crop up.
I know that he wants to stay
as well.
I know that he wants to stay in obscurity in California. I know that he doesn't like it when we talk about him. I know that, you know, she doesn't really like being in limelight either, which is why she's doing a weekly podcast, a series with Netflix, and he's writing a book that comes out in January. Because, of course, they want to protect their privacy. Because the last thing they want is anybody knowing anything about their private lives. I don't know what he's going to put in his book, but he's getting something in the order of between what
38 million
it's between 30 and 38 million dollars
for the book.
Right,
his advance
for the book, and you can imagine you don't get $38 million from Random House for writing about what a nice childhood you had and how lovely it is to live with such an amazing woman
family more than
in
the crown.
Montecito with 16 bathrooms and 9 bedrooms and a Cadillac Escalade and a fence around the house and all of that, which apparently they don't like anymore, by the way. Apparently it's...
No, they're moving, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not right for them.
It's too far from LA.
Yeah, it's just not right somehow. Anyway, and he might well be coming over here to publicise the book.
Oh, brilliant. I wonder how that will go down.
Well, I wonder who he's going to do an interview with, because obviously he doesn't like anybody. He doesn't like any of the media here.
Won't be you.
It certainly won't be me. I suppose it probably won't be Piers Morgan. I'm thinking it might be Graham Norton. He might do it for them.
Someone like that.
Somebody like that.
Yeah, Lorraine Kelly.
Or if they can just do one interview with Oprah Winfrey, maybe, and that can be just sold to every outlet in the world, and they can just carry on like that. But I just think, you know, the problem with Harry, is that he doesn't realise what he has become, you know, because an awful lot of
kinda
people
sad.
who knew him when he was in the armed forces say he was a great guy, loved to laugh. You know, I much preferred the Harry who used to go to Las Vegas and play strip poker with you know, various women there and play pool naked, which I thought was, you know,
Excellent.
exactly what he should
As
be
every
doing.
young man should.
Yeah, but he's now, this is the weird thing, he's now gone to all of his
woman.
friends,
Yes.
whatever friends he's got left, and he's asked them to cooperate with the author of the book, who's a bloke who's getting $1 million. He's Pulitzer Prize-winning writer. I think he wrote Andrew Agassi's book, didn't he?
he did, yeah.
And,
Same picture too.
Same picture,
was
exactly
easy.
same cover. I mean, I don't mind that. He's got no creative ideas. It's not a problem. But he just seems to think that he can run everything about his life without anybody else that he doesn't like commenting on it. And every single time anybody says anything or writes anything, they issue a lawsuit. You know, some of which they win, some of which they don't. But they have an awfully big legal bill to pay every single month, it seems to me, because they must have lawyers on, you know,
on speed
literally
dial.
on speed dial because they speak to them so much. So, you know, this is a man, let's not forget, who missed getting to Balmoral early enough to see the Queen before she died, but who wasn't even going to go and see her
At all.
before he got the call from his father to say, you know, your grandmother's not very well. They were going to come to Britain, not see her, go to Germany, not see her, come back to Britain, not see her, and then go back to America.
Jeez.
And it just seems to be a terribly
What's
sad
interesting-
thing.
It's not good, is
What
it?
is
And he hates
interesting-
Camilla, apparently, so there's likely to be some anti-Camilla stuff in the book.
Yeah, he
Because,
hates
you
her.
know,
I hear Camilla's lovely too.
But
I
the
hear
early,
she's
the
really
early
lovely.
narrative was that this book, of course, Random House wanted it to come out in time for Christmas. No publisher says we've got the ideal month, January.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This is because it's
After
been
the Christmas market.
This is because it's been unavoidably delayed. Now, at first we heard that the reason it was delayed was that Harry had got cold feet and he wanted to tone it
To
right
cool it
down
off, yeah.
after
Right.
the Queen's funeral, meeting his family again. Well, now it seems quite the reverse, that Random House looked at the book and said, this is boring. No one wants to know about your mental health and your trauma and your journey from grief to recovery. We want some dirt. Can you pour a bucket over your dad, please? So that
Really?
seems to be the reason that it's been delayed, that it will be this bombshell book. And if it is what it is threatened to be, then what kind of a man is he? Just using his family to make $38 million. And by the way, signing a pact with the devil, Netflix, who continue to produce
Well, this is the
Crown.
other thing. You know, they're taking all this money from Netflix, but they've also now distanced themselves a bit from that, haven't they? Because they said when they came back from the funeral that things had been kind of smoothed over slightly. They might be getting on a little bit better with the royal family. And so I think they went to Netflix and said, you know, maybe you could, you know, tone this down a bit. And they just went, no. Because that's not what we pay you for. So they've now said, her statement said something like, you know, it's a story being told about us. It might not have been the way we would tell it. So
is that
if
what
they
they
say
say?
anything horrible, they'll go, oh, nothing to do with us, Chief.
It's,
You know,
a
that
bit, it's
was
a bit like sort of, Harry,
Harry!
this is the real
Harry!
world. Meet the real world. I don't believe you've
Harry!
met. You know,
Yeah.
He's finding out what the real life is like. And publishers and streamers like Netflix, they want dirt. They don't want boring traumas about natural grief and God.
No,
knows.
But you
They
know
want
what? The
their
thing is,
money's
the thing I
They want their
find
money's
so-
worth.
The thing I find so
$38 million. It's
And that's
better than-
thing I find so
Hollywood. They're
upsetting-
ruthless.
course.
Yeah,
They
is
didn't
that
get where they are
Harry and
today,
Meghan have
etc.
done so much to dismantle the mystique of the. I'm a big royalist, you know, and the fact that they've kind of dismantled it and they've shown us what's behind the curtain. It's a little bit like, you know, the SAS, for example. There's so much everybody knows about the SAS. I mean, there is obviously still a lot of secrets there. But at least there was the mystique. Nobody really knew. After the Iranian embassy, everyone was like, who are these guys in black who will just abseil in and kill all the bad guys? I'm not saying the royal family do that, but the royal family, you know, they are...
should have.
There was this mystique, this veneer, which we could be proud of.
Yeah.
And this kind of constant dissection
You're right.
and undermining
exactly right.
by Harry and Meghan. And I think the sad thing is, I think Harry really has lost his marbles.
Yeah.
And
He doesn't
I
know
think
where
he's
he's
going to
going.
regret this down the line.
I think he will, absolutely right. Kevin, you're next.
My next one is Chris Bryant.
Oh, yes, the Labour MP.
The long-term Labour irritant.
Another one who's blocked
Now,
me, I'm afraid.
If you
Oh, has he?
remember, if you remember, it's
I'm blocked by a lot of Labour
I was going to say, how many?
what is that?
I don't know. I mean, I pay their
extraordinary, isn't
salaries.
it?
They
Yeah.
should be talking to me, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
But no, so if you remember a couple of weeks ago when it was all unravelling for Liz Truss, it was literally the last days of her Raj, and she instigated a test vote. She wanted to legalise fracking, to bring back fracking. By the way, I wish she had.
Yeah.
I wish that Rishi...
Well, they voted for it,
I
didn't
wish
they?
Rishi had not U-turned on it, idiot. Anyway, that's a side issue. So if you remember, it became de facto a vote of confidence or a no confidence in the Prime Minister. So all the Tory MPs were told, if you don't vote for fracking, that's a no confidence vote in the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So she got it through okay, but there were these massive punch-ups. Well, it wasn't punch. They were all shouting and screaming in the lobby, and I don't want to vote for this. So it was all quite emotional.
Apparently some of them were in tears. I mean,
Yeah,
some of
apparently
them were
so.
in tears.
Allegedly. Anyway, so Chris Bryant, Labour, he says, I've never seen such disgraceful scenes.
Bullying, he said.
He said there was bullying, there was physical attacks, it was absolutely outrageous. He then got up in the House of Commons and made this pious speech. Mr. Speaker, how are we, as MPs, as political representatives, to rail against a campaign against bullying when we foster bullying in this House? It was terrible. It was really pompous, and... So Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, launched an investigation into it, and the results of that investigation came out just a couple of days ago. Guess what? He found there was absolutely no bullying, but Chris Bryant had taken an illegal picture in the lobby, so only Chris Bryant was censured, and quite clearly, for political reasons, he made up. He invented that the Tories were shoving each other around and bullying each other. So he's the villain of this piece, and he made up, frankly, a pack of lies for political advantage. Real mischief-making and pretty pathetic. So Chris Bryant,
I think it is. But
Plank
also,
of the week.
I mean,
Sad.
we haven't really got a lot of time to get into this, but the whole parliamentary situation at the moment seems to be like a kindergarten. It's like a child's playground, isn't it? I mean, these people don't seem to know what it looks like. I mean, can you imagine any other workplace behaving like that?
I mean, there is a serious point here, isn't there? Again, it's the standards and the kind of, they treat it like a joke, it seems.
But here's the other thing about it, though. Although, of course we don't condone bullying, but I was thinking, if you remember at the time, our Prime Minister...
I condone bullying.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to bully you in a minute because we're going to be out of time.
No, but this is just MPs, once again, at a time of national crisis.
Yeah.
Prime Minister teetering on the edge, fracking, energy crisis, cost of living, and they're talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Just like, ooh, we're bullies.
Ridiculous.
Like Robert Jenrick this week.
That's enough bullying.
Don't use the word invasion. Shut up. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares whether or not the Home Secretary calls Albanian migrants invaders.
I mean,
or
Can
not.
you shut this guy up? This is my show, right? Plank of the Week with Mike Graham. He's only a guest. He doesn't get to have that long. We're going to have to put some kind of a gag on him for the next
I'm
part.
furious about a lot of
Coming up, though, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some of those people who threaten to leave Twitter because they don't like it anymore. Welcome back to part 3 of Plank of the Week. Here we are, hopefully in the right order. So if this is going out as not part 3, you'll know that bloke, wherever he is still working for us, and I haven't found him yet to do that to it, basically. But
I'll find him for you.
we are,
Bill
Geddes can find anyone. If anybody needs looking for, he's the man to find him. Now, let's get straight to it, though, because we're nearly coming to the final part of the show. And Candice Holdsworth is here with her next plank. Who is it, Candice?
So it's everyone who's threatened to leave Twitter since Elon Musk took over.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that we have to say Elon Musk is some sort of god and we all have to bow down to him. It's not about that. It's just that suddenly they think that Twitter has become this hellish place where only bad things can happen and nothing was bad before.
Right.
Like Twitter was just this amazing utopia, and it wasn't a place where like mobbing took place, censorship took place, like every type of bad thing you can imagine, which is still going on.
People were
Twitter.
threatened every day.
Yes, I mean, like
Porn,
Al-Qaeda was operating on there, but no, it was fine. Twitter was fine then, just not Elon Musk, no, because he's not conventionally woke and shares a few edgy memes. So a lot of them threatened to go in April when he first promised to buy it, but were back on in weeks. So I would love to know how many of them actually permanently quit Twitter.
Yes.
So we'll see.
Well, quite a lot of them who said they were about to quit, literally at that moment. Sort of 2 days later, they still were there.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
It's
and
been
what's the point of quitting
disingenuous.
Twitter? If you don't want to be on it, just don't be on it. You don't have to make a big song and dance about how I'm now quitting Twitter. He does seem to like firing people, though, doesn't he?
I love the fact that his original price, I think, was something like $30. And apparently the only person he brought the price down for was Stephen King, the author, who said $30, If you
was
could
20
charge this,
to
I'll
8.
be gone like Enron. I thought that was brilliant. And then he brought it down to, what, $9?
8. It's
Or $8.
20 to 8.
I do think that's a bad idea, though, because there's an the blue tick thing, there's an authenticity point too, right? That actually, if you're just going to charge anyone to be able to get a blue tick.
Have you got a
I
blue
didn't
tick?
think that was the deal, though.
No, I've never tried to get
I
a blue
don't
tick,
think that's the
actually.
deal.
I guess.
I don't have one.
No,
Have you got one, Mike?
Yeah, I've got one. I don't think the
course you
deal
do.
is. I don't think the deal is that you can pay the money and then you get one. I think the point is that if
You've
you have
got
one,
one, yeah,
if you have
one,
No, I think you can buy them as
okay.
well.
I don't think so.
Really?
No.
I heard
mean,
something about it
makes
you
more
could.
I think the point about authenticity, though, is a good one, because I think I'd rather have a Twitter where everybody knows who everybody is. Because there are
I
so
agree.
many
I
fake
agree.
accounts and so many bot accounts that are sometimes the most awful, horrible things that they say, and you can't tell who they are.
Yeah.
And you complain to Twitter about something that they've said, and that never violates Twitter's policy.
I mean,
no
to
matter
be
what
honest,
it is.
getting people, I've done some investigations for people who've been horribly, really horribly
Yeah.
trolled. And there's not enough time to tell you the whole thing now, but literally it was like jumping down a rabbit hole, and we never got anywhere in actually finding out who it was responsible for those particular handles. It's
And I mean, people say to me,
Yeah,
well,
won't
we've
help
had
him.
but we
similar-
need anonymity to protect ourselves in case our employer fires us for things that
right.
we say. Well, fine, up to a point, but somebody should know who they are.
Yeah.
Even if it's only the organisation
Let's get this
itself.
straight. Elon Musk, guaranteed, 100% is going to make Twitter better. 100%.
Yeah, I think he will,
I mean, the first thing he did, apart from firing all his executives, quite rightly, he fired what they called the data control department. And these are the monitors, these little sort of California,
admins.
Silicon Valley nerds in back with baseball caps deciding what we can and cannot say, deciding what hate is. He fired all of them, so he's going to be much freer about this being.
I bet they know what hate is now.
These are the idiots who decided that the former president of the United States should be banned from Twitter.
Exactly.
It's quite
Most ludicrous
interesting,
decision
yes.
ever.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting, though, isn't it? You have so much power concentrated, and I don't disagree if I agree with everything you just said. I think you will make it better, but it's a lot of power in one person, isn't it? And there is a question, I think, about actually whether these companies that have this real sway on our public square ought to be, I don't know, is it regulated
Accountable.
or accountable?
Well,
in
he is
some
going to
way?
regulate it. I mean, if you've got $230 billion in the bank, it does give you a lot of power.
Yeah, of course.
true.
I mean, it's interesting, although I love the bit about, obviously, all these blue tickers who are going to leave Twitter. And it's a little bit, but yet they all came back. So it's a little bit like all those liberal sort of celebrities who said, if Trump gets in, we're leaving the country.
Exactly, yes, yes.
They're still there.
I'm still waiting for Yasmin Alibhai-Brown to leave the country. She said she would leave the country if the Tories got re-elected about 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean,
anyway,
when you consider the Khomeini is
unfortunately
actually
still here.
The Ayatollah Khomeini is actually on Twitter.
And Donald
But
Trump
Donald Trump
isn't.
He's a funny guy, though, the Ayatollah.
He is. He does
I do
crack a
follow
funny.
him. Yeah,
occasionally. He's on constant
right,
funny.
you're next.
My one. So this is, again, my world. A little bit. So Liz Truss and her infamous personal... Yes, I know. She's gone.
Last week. Yeah.
And literally...
She won it, I think, 2 weeks ago, didn't she?
It was about her phone.
Yeah.
So her personal phone. Now, I know some of the guys who are involved in providing the encrypted devices, laptops, mobile phones, for them to be able to have those sensitive communications, which obviously China would love to hear about, Russia would love to hear about, various other states, Israel would probably want to hear about, lots of people would want to hear about, let alone all the bandits out there. And the fact that Liz Truss was found to be talking extensively about the Ukraine crisis from her personal phone,
Right.
I can only imagine to various government agencies, of which we won't mention, to discuss strategies and whatever, then I think it's just astounding. But the people I know who've been involved, they say this is a constant issue. Right. We give them all these encrypted devices, and then they just go...
You don't use them.
I'll use my own personal phone.
What's wrong
and
with them?
we were just saying, in the break, that if I have a VIP and I'm taking them into Russia or China or somewhere where there's states-level sponsored, surveillance, I'll take their personal phone off them.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, but Will, I'm a billionaire. And I go, don't care. You're not having it.
Right.
You can have this rubbishy phone, which I've given you, which is secure and not going to disclose everything.
Yeah, and try not to stand in the hotel corridor giving away anything that
Exactly.
you're doing.
So apparently her phone is now in a vault in
She's the
GCHQ.
Prime Minister, for heaven's sake.
I know, but I mean, it's just the arrogance. But this isn't the only time. I mean, there have been so many occasions where MPs, which have either come out into the public domain or haven't, have used their personal devices to talk state-level sensitive information. Yeah. And you've just got to say, why this shows
They
their
also go around like
incapacity.
the official phone, like the encrypted one, going,
Yeah.
take a quick selfie of me in the Kremlin. You know,
Exactly.
One for the kids, you know. I mean, it's beggars belief, doesn't
I know
it?
it does. It's
Thick some of
just
these
so
people are.
ridiculous. But I mean, and then again, you know, Trump was found to be using his own personal phone for quite some time before the Secret Service stepped in and said, "We're taking that."
But the other
from
thing
you."
they've now said is they've taken this phone that she was using.
It's in
haven't they?
GCHQ,
And
right.
they've given it to GCHQ. So
Yeah.
what are they going to do?
It's in a vault.
Because presumably whoever's hacked it has already got all the information.
Oh,
they want
yeah,
out of it.
absolutely.
So have they got now to look into what's on the phone?
They're going to be,
Could be
yeah,
scary.
what they'll be doing is doing all the
With the
forensics
trust.
to see how long ago the compromise actually started. And then it's going to be backtracking through what happened, what world
Yeah.
events happened that she would have made comment on or discussed with other people. But, yeah, I mean, there would have been a lot of very rich intelligence brought from
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
When she was foreign secretary, though, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
and half the
Which is probably
what
more
happened
important.
was when they closed her phone down.
Yeah.
Boris said, "For God's sake, don't tell anyone why." You
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
close
he
it."
tried to hush it up.
So when she's prime minister, all these cabinet ministers have got her old number, and
Yeah.
they couldn't get hold of the prime minister. And they said, "Why the hell has she changed her number?" Not telling you. That was how
For security
ludicrous it
reasons.
became.
that was mad. Molly, you've got the final one from your
Yeah,
collection of planks.
My final one is Mars, who announced earlier today.
Not the planet.
Not the planet, no. Mars Wrigley, the company, the confectioners, who announced that they are getting rid of Bounty from their celebration boxes. And I think this is an arbitrary and highly discriminatory
It is.
policy against those of us that only buy that box for the bounties, which apparently is 15% of people.
We
Is that
count for
right?
something.
So
So
apparently,
they
yeah.
claim that something like 31% of people or 39%
Don't like
of
them.
people
Yeah.
don't like them.
Don't like them.
about
But what
the
about the
yes?
other 61?
Well, that's not a majority.
Who cares about
69%
that
do
anyway?
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, what about the majority who
Yeah.
do? And then there are 15%, as I say, whose favourite
So
one
why,
out of
Yeah.
why arbitrarily change it? What's the point of that?
Publicity stunt.
They're not putting.
Working, isn't it?
Well, it's got to
But are they
stop it.
going to? Here's the question: though: are they going to replace them with other chocolates, or are they just going to be fewer chocolates in there?
Yeah, what are they going
Oh,
to supplement
sneaky.
it with?
Yeah.
Because that could be some
Yeah.
kind of.
Don't
you
know
know
the-
how
don't know the
Mars
answer.
they keep
Yeah,
shrinking
yeah.
the size of chocolate, don't they?
Yeah.
So when you buy it.
Well, they're
it's
saying with crisps.
Not the
Apparently,
size
there's
of-
more air in crisp bags
Yeah.
now. So although they're selling them the same size bags,
Well, there's been a
they're
bit of a
filling it with less
backlash.
crisp.
Most of the
Always at
people
the
I've been speaking
bottom.
to
Yeah.
today say that they actually quite like bounties.
I love bounties.
them.
I love a
What was
bounty.
what was the advert was that they came in search
The
of
taste
paradise.
of paradise, yeah.
Yeah.
They came in search of paradise, a bunch of beautiful people on a
Found a
tropical
chocolate bar.
beach
Yeah.
with a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
In a tropical heat.
And they found
hadn't
well,
melted.
they came in search of paradise, but all they got was a bloody bounty.
That's right.
It's a bit like Turkish Delight, you know.
But I like bounties.
We actually played the old ad from
Did you?
1980. It was brilliant.
I love
you
it.
never get away with it now. There's a woman walking around in a bikini with a grass skirt on. There's a bloke swimming in a pair of sandals.
Those were the days,
What look
Mike.
Like,
Those were the days.
see-through white trousers. I mean, it's something for everybody. Anyway, enough of that.
Don't you get
coming up-
nostalgic for sex?
I know.
Mate,
Coming up,
goes on to YouTube.
coming up, we are going to find out who the plank of the week is, and you'll get my final nomination as well, which is a bit wet, if you don't mind me saying so. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're into the final straight because we're going to choose who is going to win out of all the great nominations we've had thus far. But I'm also going to bring you my final nomination because it's been a pretty unsettled week, as they say in the weather business. I mean, it's been pouring with rain. We've had hailstones. We've had 50-mile-an-hour winds. We've had people getting blown over in the street. We've had flooding. We've had a remarkable amount of water, considering. And in fact, if you guys remember back to the days of the drought back in the summer, when we were told that some of the grass would never be green ever again. Well, there's an awful lot of green grass out there, and nothing seems to be dried up at all. But have no fear, in the midst of one of the worst rainstorms that we had this week, an email was sent out by Thames Water in which it said, basically, that the hosepipe ban is not only still in force, but it's going to remain in force until next year, 2023,
Yeah.
because apparently we haven't got enough water. Now, I don't know about you, but when you see water falling from the sky, there's probably one thing you should do, and that's
Put a bucket under it.
put a bucket under it, collect it in some way, harness the water, keep it for when you don't have any falling from the sky, that kind of thing, like build a few reservoirs. Yeah. They haven't built any reservoirs. In fact, they've shut reservoirs down because apparently those are not good for the climate. I don't know why.
Why is a reservoir not good for the
I don't
climate?
know. I really
I don't
don't
get
know.
that.
Nobody's been able to explain this to me. But they sent out to their various customers this. Following months of below average rain, we currently have a hosepipe ban, also known as a temporary use ban, in force across our region. We've seen some wet weather in recent weeks, but we still need a lot more. River levels are well below average and reservoirs at their lowest since 2003. How come? I mean, really? The restrictions which came into force on the 24th of August affect all customers we supply water to, even if we don't bill you directly. So the problem here is that these people are saying basically what you have to do is not wash your car, not water your flowers, not use the shower for as long as you would normally do, so have shorter showers, or preferably have a shower with somebody else if you can find one. I'm nothing personal, Will. And then, if you have a bath, make sure more than one person can use the water. I mean, it's just mad, isn't it?
Handy hints.
What's going on?
Yeah, I got that email as well. Long list of handy hints how you can save water. Hey, Thames Water, I know a good way how we could save water. You stop leaking 3 billion litres of water a day through your rubbish pipes.
Well, do you know what
it's down to them. It's not us. It's them.
One of the things they say is happening, right, is that the water that they use comes from very deep down into the earth, OK? And apparently when the rain soaks into the ground, it doesn't soak into the ground far enough, right? So the water that they like to get from further down isn't there, according to them. Months of low rain means the topsoil is acting like a dry sponge, stopping moisture from reaching deep enough. I love the way they write these things as if you're an idiot.
A dry sponge.
As if you're some kind of moron that needs to be told how water falls down and goes into the ground. Well, if they're leaking so much water in the ground, surely the ground should be saturated, shouldn't it?
It gives the lie that it's our fault. It is not the consumer's fault. Hose pipes or not, it's not our fault. It's their fault because they leak so much every day.
And not building new reservoirs.
But isn't it a geological issue in terms of the water going down to what is the water table?
Water table,
It is also, they're not the infrastructure. So they made nearly £500 million, I think it was £488 million operating profit last year, and they can't afford I
don't even know how they can get away with charging money for something that falls from the sky for free. It's a great racket. And then they say they don't want you to use it. So you have to pay them to give you nothing, and they get it for free. It's a great business.
Did you see the story about the pensioner and the million cups?
We haven't got time for that sort of nonsense.
It's about Thames Water.
It doesn't matter. We've got it down. This show
was a good story,
is perfectly put together, and then it gets messed up later once we've finished it. Okay, so we're going to try and get it right this time. Plank of the week. I mean, I think there's only one real contender this week, isn't there? I mean, Chris Bryant's very good. The Crown's good. Just Stop Oil, always good. And of course, even that woman whose name we didn't know, Emily Oster. But I'm going to go with the one and only Matt Hancock. It has to be.
I agree.
Because Matt Hancock, I think he's going to figure probably as Plank of the Week quite regularly over the next few weeks. He's going to be in trench foot or not, eating some kangaroo's bits, I suppose, for want of a better word, penis and anus. Sounds like a comedy duo, doesn't it? Penis and anus down under.
This
Matt
is the way to
Hancock,
end the show.
Congratulations, you have become the true owner. I think you might have had it before. Plank of the week. We'll see you next week. Thank you to everybody